And this is a good time to go live. We'll see. It'll start giving me a count of how many people are watching. And that kind of lets me know when we can dive into the meat of the conversation. So I would rather have a critical mass of people watching rather than give the meat of the conversation, when we're at 20 people. So Texas Red is with us. I assume you're from Texas, of course. Good to have you here, my friend. Manuel Godson from Ireland is with us. Great. Elliot Chip Sturman from Atlanta area. Good to see you. Murray Craig from the UK is here. It's probably midnight for you, Murray, I would imagine. M. Gray, Nicholas Holtz. Tell me where you're from. Tell me where you're from, city or country. Cheers from Poland. One of my favorite countries in the whole world. And few know the reason for that. Brittany Couchman from the land up north. Good to see you, my dear. New Braunfels, Texas is with us. Carrollton, Georgia. Tampa, Florida. Scotland is with us. Montana. Pennsylvania here. Yeah, when we get to the secret number, then we'll start the show. Ontario, Mark, good to see you. Augusta, Georgia, home of the Masters Golf Tournament. I'm starting to I'm going to have to give myself a little quiz with everybody. St. Louis, Daniel Freeman's in Colorado. Graybeard Chronicles, one of my favorite podcasts from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Fantastic. Todd Turner in Chicago. John Fahey from Sturbridge, Massachusetts. For me, what's in the pipe tonight is I have 2 pipes packed. I have, this is Moon Trance, which is a CAO flavor. It's kind of it says exotic fruit and bourbon and vanilla. Bowling Green, Kentucky. Savin 99 says, I'm going to replace my vaping to occasionally have a pipe. Fantastic. That's great. Give your cat a shout out. His name is Levi. What's up, Levi? It's not corn cob pipe day, but it is for the show right now, for at least half the show. It's a good old country gentleman. This is a big unfinished one. They make them much smaller now. This thing's like a barrel now. I think they make them much more narrow at this point, but I love it. It's good to have everybody here. We're going to be talking in just a few minutes when we get the numbers up. I'm talking with Alan Harrelson, CEO and owner of Old Carolina Pipe Cottage, one of my new favorite places to get my piping. I was going to say hobby, but maybe it's an addiction. I don't know. Birmingham, UK, I agree. I have a Polish girlfriend, and Poland is amazing. There you go. Elliot's cat's name is Pyewacket. Keeves from Seattle, Washington. Good to have you here. As you know, I don't jump right into the material right away. I like greeting people if I can. To me, it makes it more personal when I can say your name and where you're from. Osmosis 86, greetings from Germany. All the best to you, gentlemen. Fantastic. Emmanuel says, God bless all cat people. I agree. Topic tonight is why we smoke pipes. We're going to get into that in a little bit. Mark says his golden retriever, Tucker, is watching with him. Brittany Couchman, wow, you are Ukrainian. and made pierogies last weekend, still making them. Well, you're going to have to send me some, Brittany. If I ever have to move from Pennsylvania, where would I move in the U.S.? I was just telling Alan this. It's going to be South Carolina or Florida. Yep. Paul says, hello from the capital of Latin America, Miami. It's good to have everybody. I know it's a little bit early. A lot of times when I go on at 8 o'clock, many more people are available, but I'm so happy that you're all here. We'll wait till the number jumps up a little bit, and then we'll get going. DRM Drums, hello from Central Massachusetts. M. Grace says, I lived in South Carolina for 7 years. Love the state. That's cool. That's very cool. I'm having some apple cognac, which was given to me by a client. And it's interesting. Apple cognac. The other golden retriever, Macy, has joined. So we got Mark, Tucker, and Macy all hanging out watching the show tonight. Let me give a little woof shout out to Tucker and Macy. Woo, woo, woo. See if they understand that. Favorite TV series? Well, it's going to have to go back. Probably Sopranos, most likely, followed by Walking Dead. But I stopped watching all of that stuff about 5 years ago. So Fayetteville, West Virginia. It seems like every state has a Fayetteville in it. We will be taking super chats tonight. I'm always open to super chats. Why not? It's a way of showing appreciation for content and for the content creator. Little JB says, yes, it does seem like for example, I think either North Carolina or South Carolina has a Fayetteville. Yeah. Raymond Smith says we have a Fayette County here. Elliot says, my dog Willow got the message. She says, woof back. Cool. Shot of Don Julio later. As you know, that's my favorite of all time. When it comes to tequila, many people still remind me of my Beards Without Borders out on the back deck, what I call the Don Julio edition. How much to read per day out loud? 30 minutes if you can. 30 minutes. SWB from Toronto is with us. Advice for absolute pipe beginners. Yes, well, we are going to talk about that tonight. Only the Fayetteville, West Virginia has pies and pints. Love that place, Graybeard Chronicles podcast says. M. Grace is eating a nice steak on my carnivore diet just for you, Sultan of Silver. Cheers, I'll give you a little pipe toast. There you go. Have a nice bite of beef for me. You know what I've been doing with my steaks? I've been cooking them on the grill, gas grill outside, and then I finish them with a torch. one of the subscribers actually sent me a torch, and now I torch the steaks. Albuquerque, New Mexico is in the house. I was into Twin Peaks back in what, 1992? Maybe? 91? Sure. Well, let's get going here, folks. I want to introduce to you my friend, Alan Harrelson. He is the CEO and owner of Old Carolina Pipe Cottage in South Carolina. Good to have you on the show, Alan.
Yeah, well, Mr. Bruno, it is certainly my privilege to be here with you. I'm listening to all this conversation going on between you and the people who've joined us this evening. And I'd like to also give a shout out to those friends of ours who have golden retrievers. We have two pleasant ones at the house. We're actually out camping right now. And so I do miss them when they're not able to be with us. And it's just good to be here. It's good to talk to people this evening who know something about culture and who are interested in pipes.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Why do we smoke pipes? Why in the world would I take a corn cob that has a hardwood shank and a plastic bit on it, fill it up with a dark weed, fire it up, and puff it without even inhaling it? People say, wait a minute, you mean you don't inhale that? I'm like, no. They're like, then where do you get the enjoyment from? Alan, maybe you can answer that question. You're not inhaling your smoke, are you?
Mm-mm. Never do, never have. And I've never seen the point in that. I know cigarette smokers do that. I do hear of times of people with pipes doing that, but I have never inhaled. That's not the point. For me, the point is the flavor. What I am pursuing when I am smoking a pipe is the flavor notes. As the complexity and the variety of tobaccos that are available to us is one of the most interesting things about pipe smoking that I can imagine. What blend am I smoking? I am actually smoking Cult Militia, which is, I think, not in production anymore. It's a pleasant aromatic. I got it from Boswell's out of Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. And I'm smoking it in a Series 3 Savinelli. This is my camping pipe. I don't have to worry about losing it. It's not really setting me back a large price at all. So enjoying a little aromatic in the Savinelli 3 Series tonight.
Nice. Looks like a workhorse.
It is. It is not unlike a cob. Not unlike a cob. Although, as I said in a previous YouTube video on our channel, cobs can be customized and they can be a little bit expensive. But
yes.
I'm just amazed at how people are taking cobs from Missouri Meerschaum primarily and modifying them to create an item that can last a lifetime, literally last a lifetime. And that's the kind of passion that people have in this hobby that I find extraordinarily attractive.
It's funny that you say that, because I have a cob here from JWK 2366, and this is a modified cob with an oak shank and a kind of a slightly bent Danish bit. And this is a workhorse, man. He made this for me, and it's got the classic sticker on it that he puts on the bottom of all his pipes. And he's a real character, and he's a nice fella. And this is a beautiful pipe. A lot of people view corn cobs as like disposable pipes. This is not a disposable pipe. This thing here is going to probably outlive me, most likely. We are just merely stewards of our pipes.
Yes, sir. And stewards of the hobby itself, if we're going to call it a hobby. I mean, a lot of people refer to it as that.
Yeah.
There was somebody you mentioned that was asking a question about how to get into pipe smoking. I would recommend a cob for a beginner because it's extraordinarily easy to smoke. That some of them have filters in them, I guess. I never use a filter in any of my pipes. I like to just take that thing out and just chunk it because it detracts from the flavor, in my opinion. But I would certainly recommend a cob. I mean, you can pick these up for $8, $9, $10. I mean, you're not losing anything, just to figure out
Mm-hmm.
whether you're interested in it or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Someone says, "What's your favorite blend? What's your favorite tobacco blend?"
My favorite blend, um, well, you have to go into different blend categories. Of course, I said in
Yeah.
one of our YouTube videos that currently my favorite aromatic is Arrowhead from Paul's Pipe Shop in Flint, Michigan. That particular
Ah,
blend
yeah.
has a lot of different high quality tobaccos in it. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's got a little bit of Latakia, but it's not
Yeah.
an English. It's not an English aromatic crossover. And whatever
Right.
kind of casing or topping they put on that, it is mighty fine. Now, for Virginia's, currently, my favorite Virginia tobacco is Carolina Red Flake from Cornell and Deal here in South Carolina.
I've got
Unfortunately,
that.
it's not a blend that we have ready access to. I wish we had
Right.
more of it. My favorite English blends come from Boswell's, again, Boswell's in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. His Northwoods and his Countryside are outstanding.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned Paul's pipes. I have this is a Paul's pipe right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a workhorse. This was a gift by Mr. Tim Mills, or as I would like to say, Brother Tim Mills. And he gave me this pipe from Paul's Pipes, and I believe that is in Romeo, Michigan, if I'm not mistaken. And this is made. There's a proprietary process that they use in these particular pipes in
Yep.
making these pipes, where they put them in an oven with oil on them or something like that, and it just makes for a killer pipe.
I have heard through forums that those pipes are lined with honey inside the bowl. I do not know
Okay.
whether that's true. I've not confirmed that, but that is a rumor
Mm-hmm.
that I have heard, which is interesting,
Mm-hmm.
to use a natural element like that to line the inside of the pipe. Now, some pipes do not have a lining in them in the bowl when you buy them, and really I prefer pipes like that. I like to build my own cake and my own lining the way I choose.
Mm-hmm.
But for
Mm-hmm.
some people, especially beginners, if you're a beginner and you want to try out a briar to start with, I would certainly recommend buying a
Mm-hmm.
pipe that already has a lining on the inside of the bowl. That way you don't have to worry so much about building cake to start with.
Right.
And a
Right.
lot of people may not know what cake is. It's an important component of especially a briar pipe, where you're building up tobacco residue over time. It can get too thick and you have to clean it out eventually, but it allows for a cleaner smoke, a cooler smoke over time. And so you do want to build up cake eventually.
And it does help
But
cool the pipe as well. It's almost like an
mhm,
extra layer of insulation. That carbon inside there can get quite thick. I have seen some estate pipes, like on eBay, that have not been restored. And honest to God, I couldn't even, the cake is so thick, I couldn't even put a golf tee in them. You
mhm,
know, and that
mhm,
takes
yeah,
some really heavy duty reaming to get that out. But that
mhm,
means it was seriously pre-enjoyed, as I
yeah,
like to
yeah.
say.
Yeah, it was. It's a piece of history. I like to go into
Hmm.
antique shops. I was in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, probably back in July. I was going up to Pennsylvania, your part of the country, as a matter of fact, going to visit the Gettysburg Battlefield, one of my favorite places on earth. And I stopped at an antique store. Didn't plan to stop there. I just saw a sign off the interstate on I-81. And so I love to go into antique stores, and I noticed a shelf of old used pipes sitting inside this store. I mean, in a room filled with furniture that is 150, 200 years old. Here I find this wonderful, elegant shelf full of pipes, and every one of them can tell a story. Every one of
Yeah.
them has a life that's not over yet. And that's another thing that people should look into is go to antique stores. There's nothing wrong with finding something that's fairly cheap. It's already been used, and there are many
Yeah.
wonderful people around the country who can repair pipes if you find something that you like the look of and you would like some work done to it. So we shouldn't discount used pipes. Estate pipes is the more elegant way to say it, I guess. But
It's,
there's so
it's fun.
much to it.
It's funny that you say that. I just sent a pipe. One of my favorite pipes is a Danmore 309, and the Danes make magnificent pipes. They make beautiful freehands. They're just
They do.
really, the Danish pipes are works of art. They truly are.
Every time,
And
every time.
they they just have a different set of rules. And I
Hmm.
can't quite put my finger on it. But anyways, I was I was traveling. I was a speaker at a conference. I threw a couple cobs and my Danmore in the suitcase. When I got to the hotel room, I opened up the suitcase. I had a couple tins. I had my pouch. I had a couple tampers and lighters and such. And there was my Danmore broken in half. And I thought, oh no. And that happened in 2018. Well, just last week, I sent it to, is it called Briarville
Hmm.
in uh, LJ, LJ, Georgia. And a guy by the name of Rich,
J,
he,
Georgia. Hmm.
yeah, he's going to drill out the tenon. He's going to put I believe, a Delrin tenon in there and make it brand new. Make my pipe brand new. The cost for that pipe, and I love the pipe. That's only a cherry pipe. I
Hmm.
only, I only, only smoke cherry blends in that pipe. Uh, so I can't wait. The cost for that, $28.
Yeah.
So for me, $28. It's so worth it. I'll be getting that back in another week. I remember there was a tobacco company that offered 5 different, I believe it was 2 or 3 ounce bags of different cherry blends. And I ordered that 5 different bags of cherry blends and I put them all in here.
Hmm.
Shake it up. So this is just like all things cherry. It's filled up to about here with cherry tobacco. And the Danmore that I smoke only goes in this container here. So, and that a cherry blend is a very social blend. It's not, it
Hmm.
doesn't repel. I mean, all pipes repel bugs, repel mosquitoes, but all pipe tobaccos. But some pipe tobaccos repel people.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm in town and I'm sitting on a bench, on the sidewalk, and people walk by and I'm smoking an English blend, it's almost like smoking a cigar. People walk by and they go,
Yeah.
but when I'm smoking an aromatic, particularly a cherry blend, people stop. They're friendly.
Hmm.
Wow, that smells good. What is that?
Yeah.
And I'm building a bridge with strangers.
Hmm.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. So that's my Briarville uh, experience in the past week. I'll be getting
Yeah.
my Danmore. Yeah.
The first blend that I tried in recent years, I first tried smoking a pipe probably 10, 11 years ago when I was in graduate school at Mississippi State University. I couldn't learn how to do it. I didn't have anybody around me that could teach me. There wasn't anything nearly like what we have now. There wasn't a YTPC that was very much advertised. I didn't have that. But in recent
Right.
years, when I returned to the pipe, I went to the local brick and mortar store, and that's where I just love a brick and mortar store. I love walking into that kind of environment to find the materials I need. Anyway, we had one locally, and it wasn't a pipe centric store at all. There were cigars and other things, but they had some house blends, and one of them was entitled Southern Breeze, and I picked it simply because of the title, and
Mm.
it smelled fantastic. I bought half a pound of it and figured it would take me half a pound worth of tobacco to figure out how to do this correctly.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I started smoking through it, and first time I smoked it in public, I had 2 people come up to me and say, "That's a cherry tobacco, and it reminds me of my grandfather." I mean, I had one person almost had tears come to his eyes, and
Yeah.
I hear that all the time. I mean, it's grandfather or daddy or a family member that's of a previous generation. And I think that that's good in a way, but it's also a shame because the pipe is unfortunately taken a back seat culturally
Yeah.
to cigars
Yeah.
and cigarettes. But the real deep memories I've found that people have with tobacco. It is involved with pipe smokers.
Yeah.
And that is an important element of the pipe world that is highly attractive to me. You've got different kinds of smokers. I mean, I've heard you say on your channel that you walked into a pipe shop and you talked to a fellow about the cigarette smokers, cigar smokers, and pipe smokers. And according to your story, the gentleman told you that the pipe smokers were gentlemen, all
That's
gentlemen.
right. Yep.
That is extraordinarily important because that is the image I think that people have when they come to the pipe. If you're going to smoke a pipe, there's a reputation that precedes you that you need to be able to understand and contribute to in some way. It's just the way it is.
Jason Weems, thank you for the $20 super chat. That goes to support the Van Gogh room and the number of pipes and the tobacco that I have in here. So thank you for that, sir. All super chats are appreciated, folks. Thank you. Many thank yous. You know, it's funny that you say that. You are the owner and CEO of the Old Carolina Pipe Cottage, which is a virtual business right now, oldcarolinapipecottage.com, which I have purchased. Gosh, I'll tell you, what did I get? Edward G. Robinson. Many people have heard me talk about this already. McBaron Golden Extra blend. This Dorchester matured Virginia and Louisiana Perique. Let's see, what else do I have here that I purchased from your company? Virginia Cream and a tin of Haunted Bookshop.
Yeah.
And the pipes that I got from you are the Bing's Favorite, which is a longer, I'm hesitant to say a mini church warden, but when I look at this pipe compared to a standard pipe, it's longer. I don't know if you can see that. It's longer. It's longer by about 1.5 inches. So it's literally it's pretty long. The flame is away, and for somebody with my eyes are getting dimmer and dimmer as I get older. So my up close stuff is harder to light because I found myself going cross-eyed. And many times when the pipe is just a little bit further out, it's just easier to light for me visually. So that's what I purchased from your company. But what's interesting is in about another year, you plan on making the Old Carolina Pipe Cottage a brick and mortar location in South Carolina. Tell us about that.
I am of the old school. I realize that digital things, the digital world is probably here to stay, but I'm never at home, never comfortable trying to deal with people in a digital environment. I mean, I understand the importance of it, but my purpose in starting this store was not to build the super center online store for pipes and tobacco. It is a vehicle for us to move into a brick and mortar location. Now, we intend on continuing a digital presence, of course. You have to have that to stay in business because there's not, I don't know of any major community in the United States where there's a strong pipe community in the immediate environment to alone support a brick and mortar. But I know what that experience is like when I walk into a store. When I see tins of quality tobacco on a shelf, I'm like a kid in a candy shop. I walked into the Briary down in Birmingham, Alabama this summer, and I walked in there and immediately my eyes caught the tin tobacco section on the left-hand side. It was, my jaw dropped because you don't see it anymore. You walk into a tobacco store now, and it's like a little spot in a strip mall that sells vaping stuff and maybe a few cigars, and that's not what we're about.
Right.
So we want to move into a brick and mortar so that we can have a physical presence. We can have an image, sort of a model. And I don't think it should be the only brick and mortar store that's opening up. We should have more and more brick and mortar tobacco shops opening up across this country, because I think there is going to be a return to old-fashioned retail business practices. People are not going to continue to want an impersonal relationship with their products anymore. And the pipe world is going to be, I think, a primary example of how this is going to develop. Pipe people like talking to other pipe people. They like holding the physical product. You see, a pipe that I buy in a physical store, it has a memory associated with it. I remember where it came from. I remember my thoughts and the feelings I had on that particular day. It's a way for me to connect my story to different physical places. And you don't get that digitally. I understand that
You don't.
we have to buy things digitally if we want certain products that we can't find locally. But that doesn't mean I have to like it. I can do something about it, and that's what we decided to do. I was not trained in marketing. I have an associate's degree in marketing, but I have a PhD in history. What I do, what I was trained to do, is to teach history, and so I have an understanding about where the pipe has mattered in the past and how it has mattered in the past. And actually, this is one thing on my Instagram page today. I actually inquired as to why people smoke pipes, and without fail, everybody who responded said it connects me to the past. It connects me to the past. People are tired of a futuristic way of looking at life. They want stronger connections to things that are bigger than themselves. And that's a common denominator that I've found among pipe people. They like being a part of something bigger than themselves. And so I'll stop there. I could ramble on and on.
Here we have a question, Alan.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Leandro Dalbo says, how do you choose a pipe?
Mm-hmm. Well, first thing I like to look at is the shape. I'm not going to smoke a pipe that I don't like the shape of. And that's the first thing, not the material. Whether it's a cob, a meerschaum, clay, briar, I want the shape to be right. The next thing I look at is the manufacturer. Is this a reputable manufacturer? And I've been in it long enough where I know what a good pipe looks like. But when you're first starting out, it would pay to do your homework. Do some research about who the reputable manufacturers are. Peterson, Savinelli, we sell those in the store. Those are excellent factory pipes. And as you develop your interest, and if you stay in the hobby, you will become interested in artisan pipes. And that's where I'm at now. I am collecting artisan pipes. I'm not so much buying factory stuff anymore, because I've probably got over 100 factory pipes, briar pipes, in my collection. I don't need no more of those. But that's where I'm at. That's not where everybody is in their pipe journey. So first thing, look for the shape that you want. Second thing, pay attention to the manufacturer. And that's about all I can say. I mean, it's so personal. It's so personal. Making a recommendation is almost meaningless.
Well, sir, you are a professor. You are Dr. Harrelson, teaching history at a university.
Yes.
And you speak very fluently about pipes. Let's talk about some pipe shapes. This right here, I purchased from your store. This is a Savinelli 626.
Yes.
Tell me about this shape. Tell me about this shape.
The 626 is a bent apple, one of my favorite pipe shapes. When I first walked into the local brick and mortar store, the same day I bought Southern Breeze as my tobacco I wanted to try, I bought a new pipe, the first pipe that I bought in quite some time. And it was a 626 Savinelli. And that's just the shape that drew my attention, more so than anything else on the shelf. That's the shape that drew my attention because it's classic. It's traditional. It doesn't have a modern look. A modern look to it. And classic shapes tend to be where people look to begin with. It's later on when people look to free hands, when they look to more large shapes. But that particular size that you have there, that's a perfect pipe for a beginner because uh, it doesn't hold an astronomically large amount of tobacco. You can fill that thing up and you're done in probably 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about all you need when you're starting out. So that's a bent apple, one of my favorite shapes indeed.
For the folks that just joined in, I'm talking with Mr. Alan Harrelson, known to his students as Dr. Harrelson at the university,
Yes.
teacher of history.
Yes.
Tell me about this pipe here. I'm just going to show it to you. This is kind of a pipe quiz. What would you call this?
That is an offer. That would be about a 327 Ellie, something like that. It's excellent for blends that tend to burn a little warmer, particularly Virginia blends or Virginia Perique.
Mm-hmm.
You want a larger thickness on that wall, that chamber wall, if you are going to be burning something that's a little bit hotter. Virginias have a natural high sugar content, so they will burn considerably hotter than an aromatic or a burley or an English. So, yeah, that's a good pipe to have around.
That is. And then one of my favorite pipes, let me find it here. It's another Savinelli, and my audience knows this pipe. They already know the pipe I'm going to be talking about here. What is this pipe here?
That is the glorious Savinelli 673 KS. The first time I encountered that pipe was with the lovely and wonderful Legend Matches 860 in the YTPC. First time I watched him, he was smoking his famous Friday Savinelli. And immediately I had to have one. I bought one, then I bought another, and then I bought another. And that pipe also has a wonderful chamber to it. And so it's also good for tobaccos that burn a little warmer. But all those pipes come with filters. That's a topic of debate among pipe people, to use a filter or not. I don't. I think it detracts from the flavor too much for my taste. But if you're first starting out, the filter will allow for tongue bite to be abated. You won't have as much problem with tongue bite. And admittedly, that was a problem with me when I first started with a pipe. I was puffing too hard, puffing it like a freight train. The pipe is meant to be sipped. It's meant to be sipped. You're in this for the flavor.
Right.
You are not in this for a nicotine high and to impress people with how much smoke you can produce. It's far more sophisticated.
That is true.
I don't know how the light is doing.
Now,
the sun's going down where I am, so if I get too dark, just let me know.
Things are good so far. Now, Old Carolina Pipe Cottage has a YouTube channel called Old Carolina Pipe Cottage. And when people go and subscribe to your channel, what can they expect to see and hear when they go to your YouTube channel?
Good question. You're going to see a little bit of pipe philosophy. You're going to see a discussion of the history of pipe and pipe tobacco, the people who currently make the industry work. I like to also include some discussion of literature that involves pipes. People say that everyone's got a philosophy. And even those people who say they do not have a philosophy, that in fact is their philosophy. And so I am not trying to hide my understanding and philosophy behind pipes and pipe tobacco with this channel. I want to elevate our discussion and our understanding of what it means to smoke a pipe. There are many, many people who can do tobacco reviews, who can tell you how they like a particular pipe. We can only do that so much. And frankly, I'm not as interested in a lot of that at this point as I'm interested in figuring out what the role of the pipe is in our modern world, a world that I find troubling in a lot of ways. What can it do for us? What's its purpose, its role? These are the kinds of questions that I like to deal with on our YouTube channel. And so we just have two episodes right now. We launched the channel 1 week ago from today. And I've
Nice.
been amazed at the growth. I am excited about it. It's just fun. It's fun. It's a fun way for me to share what I think about the pipe and pipe culture. And evidently, there's somebody out there who likes it,
Yeah.
which is shocking.
Yeah. That's nice. That's very nice. So you're going to go from you're going to go from a .com to an actual physical location. Now, when I think about pipe stores that I have been in my lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
there is the sales floor, there's a wall with tins, and then there's usually the very big, I guess they call them ginger jars,
Mm-hmm.
where the bulk tobacco is, and
Yeah.
that might be some of the blends that the store itself puts together. One of the
Mm-hmm.
stores that I went to, there was a fella that it was the same guy that talked about all his pipe smoking customers are gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
It was that guy, and their blend was they took a dark cherry, they mixed it with a chocolate pipe tobacco and a vanilla, and they mixed it up, and he called it cherry cordial. And I've
Mm-hmm.
never seen that anywhere else. And I bought a couple ounces of it, and it was the perfect after dinner smoke. I would not
Mm-hmm.
have cherry cordial in the morning with a cup of coffee while I'm reading a devotional, while I'm reading scripture, while I'm going through any of my books or anything like that. Cherry cordial for me is an after dinner kind of thing. And talk to us about the right time of day, the right tobacco at the right time of day. Like my favorite tobacco of all time is called Daybreak, which is
Mm-hmm.
a very similar to early morning pipe. It's very similar to that. And to me, I don't want to smoke that any other time of day than at the beginning of the day with a cup of coffee. For me, that is my morning pipe tobacco that I love. Talk to us about different tobaccos at different times of the day. Now, here you are. You're out in the woods right now.
Yeah.
What are you smoking out in the woods?
It's an aromatic. It's a lovely. Again, this is Cult Militia, and it's not in production anymore. But Cult also produces by far, and this is not just my opinion. This is the opinion of a lot of people. One of the best cherry blends on the market, and that is Cult Blood Red Moon. So a lot of people may know Cult from that, and I would highly,
Yes.
highly recommend trying that. Now, when I first started with a pipe, and for the first long while after I started, I would only smoke 2 times a day, and that would be after dinner. Some people call it lunch here in South Carolina. It's called dinner time at 12 o'clock noon. I would smoke a pipe after that and after supper. And I don't like smoking on an empty stomach. I like to have something on my stomach. And so what I would do is I would most often enjoy, if it was the summertime, a warm month, I would enjoy a nice Virginia blend or a Virginia Perique after the midday meal. And as we moved on to supper time, particularly in the cooler months, I've got to have an English. I like the rich Latakia taste of an English when the weather is
Yes.
cooler. But
Hmm.
now, in recent weeks, I have been adding a third bowl to the daily schedule in the morning. And that most always is a mild English, such as early morning pipe. It is aptly
Hmm.
named. I was blown away recently when I had a cup of coffee and a bowl of early morning pipe on my front porch on my farm, watching our milk cows off in the pasture, looking at the chickens just pecking around in the yard. It was glorious, absolutely glorious. And that combination of a mild English and a cup of coffee cannot be beat for that first
Yes.
smoke of the day.
You are right about that. Talk to me about pairing.
Hmm.
About pairing. Like for instance, I'm having a rocks glass, and I have apple cognac in it. And that
Hmm.
seems to be going very well with what I'm smoking in here. I have, for me, I'm you turned me on to Edward G. Robinson. So I'm having some Edward G.
Well,
Robinson with
well,
a
I
little
did
bit
my
of
job,
apple
didn't
cognac. Yeah, you did. You did. Tell me about how you pair some of your tobaccos with a beverage.
I? All right. Well, in the middle of the day, it's going to be probably a glass of tea, and that is sweet tea. That is not unsweet tea. We are, after all, in South Carolina. So for our European friends, I do apologize, but it is sweet tea in the middle of the day here. And that's going to go with that midday Virginia or that midday aromatic. For after supper, I will either have a glass of bourbon or a glass of brandy. Now, some people say it's probably not best to have a spirit, a libation with pipe tobacco. I don't do that all the time, but if I do
Hmm.
have a spirit, it's going to be bourbon or it's going to be brandy, and it's most often going to
Yes.
be paired with an English blend.
Yes.
Because I don't want too much sugar going on. My
Yes.
palate is not so much interested in sugar. That's why when I go to an aromatic blend, I don't want to simply taste the topping or the casing. I want to
Right.
taste the tobacco, and I want the smell to be where most of the aromatic, obviously, the aromatic element comes through. Because
You
smell has a lot to do with our taste as well.
you said the word casing. For those of
Yeah,
you, there's many people out there that don't know what that is. What is a
yeah.
casing?
Casing is a flavor that now there might be some debate on this as well, but my understanding of it is a casing is something that's added to the tobacco during the processing time. It's not topped on the blend after the blend is completed. The
Gotcha.
casing is added while the tobacco is being blended. It's more uniform throughout the blend. A topping, if you have a topping, you can have a little taste of the topping here, a little taste of the topping there. A casing is more uniform and it allows for consistency. I can tell that I'm getting a little dark on the screen, so I don't want to belabor the point. When people get to where they can't see me, we might need to stop. Or you can continue. I don't know what you're going to do.
Well, I think
But
people are enjoying the narrative that you're bringing. You know, I have a square tin. It's a flake tobacco that has a almost an apricot casing. I forget the name of it. Maybe you can remind me. It's got a yellow label on it, and it is absolutely delightful. Absolutely delightful. I'd know the name if I heard it, but it's the name is escaping me right now.
all right. I don't know what that is. I tell you what, one blend that we are going to carry in the store this week is apricots and cream from Cornell and Deal. That
Hmm.
blend is just fantastic. And one of my Instagram friends told me about it. And so I'm so
Hmm.
thankful for the Instagram community and what I've learned from them. But
Hmm.
apricots and cream is probably one of the better um, apricot aromatics that I would recommend anyway.
Nice.
But
Very
but
nice.
as far as what you're talking about, I'm not really sure. Um, it's interesting to me why people pick up the pipe because it's not something that you necessarily go and see in a public environment anymore and say, "Oh, that's pretty cool. I think I want to try that." That's a question that's constantly running around in my mind. Why do people start this?
Hmm.
What is it about pipe smoking that is attractive to people? Um, because I think, cigarette smokers, they're looking for that nicotine high. They've got that addiction. They've got a smoke break. They're going to go out for their 5-10 minute smoke break, and that's it. Pipe people need more
Yeah,
time. They need
they
time to
need more
think
time.
and to simply be. And
Yeah.
it's just a phenomenon, a 21st century phenomenon. What role does the pipe play in the 21st century? And so when I ask that question again, people always go back to the past. They want to be a part of something that's historical, and that's encouraging to me because one of the problems I find with the way things are now is people are presentist, they're futuristic. Everything that's important begins with the day they're born. And when somebody comes to me wanting to be involved with the pipe world, that gives me hope. That tends to make me think that, okay, there are people out there who are interested in the finer things in life. And by
Hmm.
finer, I do not mean things that have to be extraordinarily expensive. And I'm not talking about an arrogance here or anything of that nature. It's simply enjoying the finer things of life. And I would consider pipe smoking and a fine bourbon, those sorts of things, to be products that people who have reached this point in their life are able to experience, and they seek it out.
Now I have a little tub of this. Everybody knows
Mhm.
this. You know the colors.
Oh
This
yeah.
is called half and half, and I bought this probably 2 years ago, and I'm only halfway done with it. I really like smoking half and half in a cob. I
Hmm.
thoroughly enjoy it. And that's something that many fathers and grandfathers, a lot of guys might remember their father or grandfather smoking half and half. And
Hmm.
what we might call OTC, over the counter, or drugstore blends, which
Hmm.
may include Prince Albert, Sir Walter Raleigh, half and half. What are
Hmm.
some other drugstore blends that will bring back memories and take people down memory lane?
Well, you've got Carter Hall, which is a very famous
Carter
one,
Hall.
and it's still
Yes.
sold. It's still sold in grocery stores here in South Carolina.
Hmm.
Half and half is very, very difficult to find. So, Prince Albert, and Carter Hall are the two that I see more often than not. And those
Yeah.
are good blends for people who are starting out. They are burley based. And to be completely honest here, I don't favor burley based tobaccos as much unless it's really, really refined, unless it has
Uh-huh.
age to it.
Yeah.
But but what you're getting with those codger blends, as some people call them,
Yeah.
is a wonderful top note. It's a wonderful top note. They've got a vanilla
Hmm.
or a licorice top note, and licorice, and that will literally place you as close as you're probably going to get to a 19th century pipe tobacco. Simply because licorice was the number one top note used by tobacco manufacturers in the 19th century. And some people used deer tongue, which is extremely strong. I mean, Cornell and Deal, they have Gentleman Caller and Crooner, two blends that have
Hmm.
deer tongue in it, which is not tobacco at all. But it has, some say it has a licorice note, some say it has a vanilla note. Anyway, that's the type of flavor that would have been used in the 1800s. That's the type of flavor that a Civil War soldier would have experienced in the 1860s. And so, if you just want to try something that has a historic note to it, yes, those over-the-counter blends are absolutely wonderful to try. But they're admittedly not in my daily rotation uh,
Hmm.
for whatever reason, but they are still fantastic blends. And I've heard that perhaps Carter Hall is not going to be around very much longer. So if you want a tin of that, you better go get it.
I think I might go get a tub of that. I know a place that has it. So it's a good thing that you said that. So, yeah, in my pipe smoking years, I have watched many tobaccos come and go. I've
Hmm.
watched the McClellan tobaccos disappear, and of course now
Yes,
they're
sir.
selling on eBay for $100 for a tin. And
Yeah.
like the Frog Morton series, the first English I ever tried was Frog Morton on the Town, and I
Hmm.
absolutely loved it. Loved it.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Frog Morton. I did not come along before McClellan went out of business. I was not that
Hmm.
interested in high end tobaccos at that time. And they went out of business,
Hmm.
I think, 2018, 2019. I forget the exact year.
Yeah.
Um, but I have a dear friend of mine in Virginia, Mr. Patrick, and he lives up in Virginia. And he loves collecting all of these McClellan blends. And so every once in a while, I'll get a treat in the mail. He'll send me something. And the Frog Morton series, I've tried some of those. I have a tin of, I think, 2017 Christmas cheer at the house that I will open up in December.
Nice.
But I will say, and this is not to belittle our McClellan aficionados out there. There are many, many blends on the market that, in my opinion, are getting close to reaching that quality or surpassing that quality. Check out Boswell's Northwoods, which many people compare to Frog Morton in
Oh
in
yeah.
different ways.
Magnificent.
One blend that we just started carrying in the store a couple of weeks ago is Cornell and Deal's Cross-Eyed Cricket. Cross-Eyed Cricket is an English aromatic crossover. It receives very little attention, and it deserves a lot more. It has all the elements of Frogmorton, in my opinion. It's different. It's not the same thing, but many of the same elements are present. Because what people are looking for in that English aromatic crossover is that wonderful English taste with just a little bit more sweetness, not cloyingly sweet. So, in short, there's a world of quality tobaccos on the market. Don't think that just because something is no longer available that we don't have anything good anymore. And that's a mistake that I see a lot of people make when they look to these older blends. I'm not going to pay $150 for a tin of tobacco. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do it. When I know that I can go and I can pay $11 for a tin that's just perfect for me, but everybody's palate's different.
When I think of English blends, I think of my brother and I were taking a walk in Chestnut Hill, Pennsylvania, going to a pipe store called the Pipe Rack. It's one of the only I think it's the only brick and mortar pipe store left in Philadelphia. It's only about 4 or 5 miles from me. And for those that are new to the broadcast, I'm talking with Mr. Alan Harrelson, known to his students as Dr. Harrelson, a PhD in history, who has a .com, oldcarolinapipecottage.com, a virtual business. And he is going to be opening up a brick and mortar store, an actual location in South Carolina, about a year from now. Now, do you have a mailing list in order to stay in touch with people?
Yes. What I would recommend people do is go to the website, oldcarolinapipecottage.com, and there will be a bar at the bottom of the home page which simply says join us or join our community, something like that. Click on that bar. And then if you'll give us your email address, we'll keep you up to date on latest products. And we are adding products to our inventory weekly. And as we continue to grow, that allows us to include more products. Also, you'll learn about new articles and new YouTube videos, and perhaps just some ruminations of mine on pipes and pipe tobacco. So it's worth your while if you want to join that email list.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I'm walking down the sidewalk with my brother, and there's a gentleman walking towards us, an older guy with a white beard. And he had a tweed coat on and a flat cap and a vest, a tweed vest underneath the tweed coat. And my brother gives me a little elbow, like, look who's walking towards us. As we pass the man, he has a Peterson chin hanger in his mouth. I mean, it's hanging low. As he walks past us, he says, "Good afternoon, chaps," in a British accent. My brother and I looked at each other and high-fived each other. And we said, of course, he had to have a British accent. He had to. So when we got to the pipe rack, I said to the owner of the pipe rack, Dave, who's the British guy in town here? Tweed coat, smoking a Peterson. He says, oh, he's the owner of the art gallery. And I said, of course he is. So that kind of made sense as well. Definitely.
Yes, there are, I think, a certain type of people who enjoy pipes. As we've said, the first guy that really was an influence on me with the pipe was a medical doctor from Mobile, Alabama. And when I was going to Mississippi State University, I would often go over the state line to Alabama and visit some friends I had there. And long story short, I came to make the acquaintance of this gentleman who by that time was close to 80 years old. He retired. He bought a massive estate in rural Alabama. He built his own vineyard. He did well for himself. And I looked up to him in several ways. But I remember I often had a meal in his house with him, and he had a long dining table, one of the longest dining tables I've ever seen. It would seat probably 15 to 20 people. And he would often invite me to have a meal, and he would always sit at the head of the table, and he had a pipe in his pocket the entire meal. And after the meal, he would sit there and pull out what looked to be a Savinelli 673, and he would smoke it at the head of the table, and he expected nobody to go anywhere. You do not dare get up from the table until he did. And we sat there and talked about pipes many, many pleasant evenings down in rural Alabama in the deep South.
Nice.
And this sounds like moonlight magnolias to some people, but it was a world that existed at that time in my life.
That's
And
right.
and I just loved it. And so he taught me how to appreciate a pipe. I didn't go to him and ask him how to smoke a pipe because I thought that would have been beneath him to provide that kind of detail, although it never would have been beneath him. And I know he would have helped me. But I admired him not because he was a pipe smoker, but because of the role that the pipe played in his accomplished lifestyle, which is extraordinarily fascinating. That's the thing that I think a pipe does. That's the role that it plays in the life of people who enjoy them. It complements your personality. It complements you in a way that simply makes sense. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense if he had been smoking a cigarette at the dining room table, but smoking a pipe was completely acceptable. There was never any question about the elegance and the propriety of the pipe in that situation. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
I like that. I like that. Well, we'll wrap it up here. I'm talking with Alan Harrelson, who is the owner and CEO of OldCarolinaPipeCottage.com, place where you can get pipes and pipe tobacco and various implements from. I do like the way you package things. When I receive your boxes, there definitely is an Old Carolina Pipe Cottage way of doing things that I've noticed, and it's something I look forward to. When I see that return address label, Old Carolina Pipe Cottage, I always look forward to. I don't hastily open it up. I come out to the Van Gogh room and I take my knife and I look forward to the contents that are in it. So if you want to know where to find Alan Harrelson, you can go to oldcarolinapipecottage.com. You can subscribe to his YouTube channel, which is Old Carolina Pipe Cottage. And Alan Harrelson, I'll give you the last word tonight.
Well, so I'm honored. I'm honored. I would simply encourage people to maintain your interest in the pipe. It can be discouraging a lot of times. Try to influence people around you. If you know people who smoke cigarettes and they've never tried a pipe, maybe it's time for you to introduce them to it. I've never been a cigarette smoker, and that's not something I've ever done. But we need more pipe people in this world because pipe people are kind, they're generous, they're gracious, they're merciful, and they are a reflection of who we're really supposed to be as human beings. And so that's all I have to say tonight. I'm glad to be with you, sir. This has been a great privilege and an honor.
Let me ask you a question. Will you come back again and we have another pipe chat? Would you be willing to do that?
Indeed, sir. Indeed. If there's a demand for it, we can certainly do that. No problem at all.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank Mr. Alan Harrelson for joining us tonight on a pipe chat, something that I love doing. Usually I have a pipe in my mouth when I'm doing live broadcasts, and it's great to have a thought leader in the industry, and not only just a thought leader, a philosophical leader. It's interesting that you have a PhD in history and your career of choice is opening up a Old Carolina Pipe Cottage. And I find that fascinating. So I want to say thank you very much and say thank you to all the guests that are watching tonight. And I will be announcing again. And if you liked our guest, let me know in the comments. And Alan Harrelson, thank you very, very much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure, sir. Have a good evening.
All righty.